just going on YouTube. This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the second album by new metal band Disturbed, heavy metal band and new metal band Disturbed. Basically, this product is called Believe, and it came out in the late summer of 2002. So the thing about this particular product here is they took a little bit off between like the particular hit album from the early 2000. The particular hit album from early of the year 2000, The Sickness, as far as those first going to happen, was a huge smash hit throughout that particular time. Definitely a pretty defining new metal album within that particular pitch behind it. Just some excellent stuff here. Had hit songs in there like Down with the Sickness, Voices, The Game, some of those type ones, Stupefy, good amount of fares with that. I reviewed that album way back in 2016. I was on a huge kind of Disturbed kick back in 2016, but then I kind of forgot about the band somewhat within the tone. Now, I definitely think the excellence of this particular album is here viciously. I recommend every song out of the 12 songs on here. So it's another classic for Disturbed. But I think the unfortunate reason why I didn't review this particular album, Believe, back in 2016, 2017, some of those fairs when I was more obsessed with new metal, is just the pitch that originally it was said to have like a more focus on like religious and kind of like they originally said when I looked up the descriptions of this album said it's more religious based and had originally when I looked up information on this album back in the day they said it was less new metal based and more religious based, so I thought back in those days that it possibly wasn't going to be as good as like The Sickness was, because I thoroughly enjoyed that album, listened to it pretty much damn near every day of like 2016, 2017, some of those type fairs. I did actually purchase this album back in the day. I want to say somewhere along the lines I did have plans to particularly review this album, Believe, but I just this particular album just got passed off to the wayside, and then I just forgot about it. So I want to get back to Disturbed. They put out a number of products, but I did manage to review most of their products pretty much back in like 2016. I managed to review damn near everything by Disturbed, minus like this particular album and then their 2010 album. And then I was pretty much caught up with them up to when I had built my channel in 2015, as far as I was first going to happen. There was like an Immortal or Immortalized album that came out in 2015. That was the only album I had left to really get to. But since about that point, they have dropped more Disturbed albums, some excellent type pitch, kind of get that here. But yeah, just to be able to say about this particular product, it's a blistering classic. Just to be able to see this prime new metal just within those particular days. Although this album is not as much full bound kind of new metal within the pitch, it's a little bit more alternative metal, but it's just that particular dredge about it is the same sort of concept. If you like folks like Godsmack, if you like folks like Slipknot within a certain sense, more over Stone Sour more so than Slipknot, but this the bit between the pitch like the Stone Sour 2002 album with pitches of like Godsmack in there with some of their kind of alternative metal glaze about it. It's just kind of the pitch. It has mild amounts of new metal, but that was more of a big deal. That was more of a big deal to me back in 2016, 2017 that it didn't have as much new metal, because I particularly missed that aspect about The Sickness, but it's not anything noticeable within the pitch of saying that like Believe is worse than The Sickness. I would say within the impact, probably just the revolutionariness, I'd say The Sickness is probably the larger album just within the aspects of it, but this is not a worse album just by any stretch. It's probably, I think I'm probably giving this album, Believe, from 2002 a higher score than The Sickness. But nowadays, I don't remember what I gave The Sickness. It's really been 9 years, something like that within those relative type pitches, but I would have to say more than likely I'd probably give The Sickness probably damn near like a classic score just from the impact of it, just all those songs. I probably would like it thoroughly more than I did back in those days, even though I was obsessed with it back then. So it's just in the pitch. Getting back to Disturbed, I am eventually going to review their Asylum album from 2010, some further type ones, just get to the pitches behind it. But it's just within the aspect here. I covered a lot of bases with Disturbed, so catching up with this one. This has a relatively mild kind of 3 singles on here. It's just within the time period, the late 2002, early 2003 was just kind of an era where new metal started to get washed out of the spotlight as far as what's first going to happen. Just trap was doing pretty good around this time, but folks like Crazy Town didn't do as terrifically around this time when they dropped their 2002 album, or maybe it came out in early 2003. Disturbed was kind of here and there. I think things were kind of getting more replaced with like folks like Good Charlotte and some of that type of just more MTV bound type stuff that just had more consistent staples. Good Charlotte and like folks like that. I'm trying to think of some other folks, but like no, it's just not coming to me. Papa Roach kind of got a little bit more commercial just from the pitch, but new metal was starting to flesh out. I mean, there was a consistent amount of new metal for the most part in 2002, but folks like Limp Bizkit, Korn, Godsmack, some of those type of folks this was like the apex of like the time where it was like the shit to be with new metal as far as what's going to happen. By this time, a year later, by September 2003, it was kind of the concept that was starting to get a little bit dried up within the pitch, but it's just the aspect, it's still some viciousness. This is just further Primera, just within the aspect of continue like that alternative metal and new metal type to get within the concept of viciousness within the appeal. It's not toned down, but just considering all the metal I've listened to within the pitch, this feels very vanilla nowadays. I just look within the aspect back within those particular times, this is pretty vicious. When you listen to songs like Prayer And when you listen to songs like Liberate, which are two relatively vicious songs, when you think of like the thrills of those songs, remind you of songs like Stupefy and Down with the Sickness and The Game and some of those type of ones, and Voices just within some of those type of feels. It's just kind of concept that these are pretty relatively mild when you think compared. I mean, Slipknot has torn these particular riffs to pieces within the aspect. I mean, Slipknot definitely got further vicious. Then you had folks like Electric Callboy and Attack Attack and folks like that. Just some of those type of ones. There's other ones in there. I'm trying to think of Metallica, obviously. Megadeth, some of these type of folks, Black Sabbath, just other folks like that. I can't really think it's full bound within the pitch, but there's just been a good several of these within the product of it that have really torn some of this. I mean, this is pretty vanilla in factor within the concept of new metal. I mean, it's definitely some shreddage to be able to have for some backyard type fare. If you miss those aspects like some summer cookouts, things like that, some smoke fairs, just Taco Bell runs, pitches like that, that same sort of backyard type fare, just smoking with your pals, and that good type stuff like summer frolics, some good type concepts. Also has some autumn licks in here. Does have some makeshift and some drivenness. It's kind of the concept. It's kind of the concept of being productive as well as far as those first going to happen. But this is a relatively milder type project. It's not quite as widespread, just within the concept of just maybe disturbed, questioning what the direction was going to kind of be, just within the concept of noticing possibly mildly that like new metal was not as catchy and as full bound in their subgenre and the pitch of what they came up in. They had to kind of switch things up because by the next album, which came out way out in 2005, which was 10,000 Fists, that definitely had a differential type pitch behind it. It was more, I want to say, not as, I don't remember that album as full bound. I do own that album. I think it's around, I need to get to that one, but just I need to remess with that album again within pitch. I remember that one particularly kind of being more heavy metal and hard rock, some of those types of remember that being more heavy metal and hard rock, some of those type pitches, just the aspect of like more arena rock and some of that type fare, just more Xbox type music pitches like that. Not to say it's full bound, but just within the pitch a little bit more kind of like contemporary to like mid 2000s, just within a sense of metal that just was more just kind of vanilla within a sense. But this album really does this excellence here. So just be able to say, yeah, just talk about it. Recommend every song on here. So this album gets a 10 out of 10. So Prayer is a nice one. It's like a typical kind of dope new metal kind of summer frolic to kind of get here. Just a good sequel to The Sickness. I'd have to say Down with the Sickness, but I mean by that the lead single off that album. This is just like a vanilla rip to kind of get here. So it's a good type concept. I think within certain senses I've probably heard this song just within standard kind of local rock radio within some of those type pitches. I mean, a lot of these, the difference, like the riffage and just the overall aspect and the aesthetic, the songs from like Believe compared to the songs from The Sickness from the year 2000 is pretty similar. A lot of these just have the similar type mode and just overall approach to how they particularly go. It's not to say like that's a bad thing. It's just the pitch. When you compare the 4 singles to The Sickness to the 3 singles off this album, they have the same type factory type of feel within it. I mean, I would say that 10,000 Fists is a little bit different, but it's just within the aspect as far as saying it's just within the tone that these are just another good second helping of like the hits that you remember from back in the early 2000s. So it's a good type aspects, but yeah, Prayer is just a factory type one, real excellent type fare for that. Just some good spark of you with your pals, good pitches like that. Remember is a nice one. Now this is a good type flare. This feels more of Korn-like fashion. It's a little bit more leery about this particular one, but it's a nice one here. It's like a glaring kind of backyard social spark of you. It had to say within the concept is good vintage kind of early 2000s new metal. It had to say just a red hot type song and kind of get. So basically it's like something Korn would do with like the leery disc, but just not as full bound creepy. David Dreaman is just a little bit less kind of like of a gothic type tone. I mean, he has some of that relative kind of like maybe Dark Prince type aspect, but it's just more in like a goth type sense more so than it's just more in like a tattooed type sense just within the pitch behind it. More of like Sully Erna, folks like him, compared to more folks like Marilyn Manson and John Davis. Not to say that he didn't fuck with those folks, but it's just in the pitch. It's just a little bit more traditional, kind of tatted, badass as far as this pitch kind of goes. It's a good type tone, but this one is a pretty glaring type one that works pretty well. Good type pitch for that. So this vintage feels like new metal, those pitches that you remember from 2000, 1999, 2003, some of those type pairs. Excellence within that. Then Liberate's a nice one. It's another good aspect to kind of get these. It's like a good heavy hitting, kind of go ham fun to kind of get here, just like Voices from The Sickness as far as those pairs can happen. Just a similar type pitch and overall riffage within that particular fare, the same riff cadence within that. Just a summary kind of get crunk. It's definitely like a summer kind of get crunk within those pairs. It has saying good song for some snack. It's just good song with your pals to bust out like the Oreos pitches like that. Some of those type pitches, just getting like some goodies and just things of that relative type fare. Obviously more than that, Chex Mix, the snacks, the burgers, the brews, those sorts of pitches within the aspects as far as those pitches kind of go. Even the ribs just within the pitch behind it. Some good type aspects kind of get within that fare. So that's the pitch behind this album, just being able to say. So yeah, once again, I recommend every song on here. There's some real good aspects. I would almost say this album kind of feels factory just within the concept that every song on this particular album is just one word within the pitch behind it. I think just within the concept is just basically like getting your shot in the arm of like some new Disturbed as far as those pairs will kind of happen with it. Some good aspects to be able to get this here. I kind of look after it just within the pitch behind it. It definitely has the excellence on here. It's just kind of the concept that I don't want to say it feels fleeting through the motions, but it's just kind of the concept as far as saying it just doesn't feel as stretched out. Like, I do want to say what I remember the singles from like The Sickness from 2000, that the particular promotion of that album lasted till about the summer of 2001, which is over a year after it came out. Just within pitch is really pretty predominant. I want to say that album went at least 3 or 4 times platinum. This one at least went double platinum, but it just felt a little bit quieter, and I think was within the reasons I described. The new metal is just starting to mildly phase out. It's just kind of the concept that they needed like a new kind of nesting ground to be able to find something within the pitch of adapting their style to figure out what to do next. It's just within the concept, but still some excellence here to kind of get. So a real nice one on here is Darkness. It's one of the few songs that has a more post-grunge kind of alternative metal kind of harrowing about it, but Darkness, like a harrowing and kind of super dope gothic ballad to kind of get here. It just reminds of like Stone Sour from like their 2002 days. Some of those type songs like off the Spider-Man soundtrack, some of those type pitches just in a way more haunting aspect. It's like some thrilling grimness kind of get here. So it's a good type one. Probably need another song like this. Is a good aspect. It's probably something that could have hit a lot heavier if there had been more of these. Not say, I mean, Darkness definitely hits pretty damn heavily. It was just within the concept that probably leaves you hungry for more within the pitch. Just a good aspect of something that it feels like something Korn would do or Marilyn Manson would do within some of those type pitches. Just more in like a new metal type fashion. Definitely something that Corey Taylor would have done, just in more gothicness. So it's a good type tone. Some of these type ones on here. Mistress is a quality one as well. It's like a fierce kind of arena rock stretcher, kind of get within those aspects. Just some grand social jive about this one. Just some house party fun. I'd feel like here. Good Red Cup type music. I'd feel like within the pitch behind it. Good house party type appeal within that social jive. Just more localized. It's like a good crunk number. Good song to get crunk to as far as what's first gonna have. So it's a good concept. When I say arena rock stretcher, just kind of something that just has like a grand kind of social appeal, but it is something that probably could be an outdoor type fest where there's going to be a lot of people. Something that probably could be played at a larger type venue, but also within the pitch that has like the social job of just being for house parties, just where there's going to be lots of folks where you can basically, just the concept of standard mingle with bells as far as what's first going to happen, just in a more gothic type sense. So it's a good type of appeal within the pitch behind this alternative highlight it had to say. Intoxication's a pretty quality one as well. This is similar type pitch to some of their early days of like The Sickness. I'd have to say it's like a similar breakout to Down with the Sickness, like I was saying, good type concept. Very, very extremely similar to that particular song. I had to say down to the riffage and the overall cadence, like the vocals and just the overall aesthetic of the song is very similar to that particular. It's just a good spin off of that particular song. I had to say just a vicious kind of backyard heat as far as those first gonna have. So it's good type tone. Just I would basically say The Sickness album from the year 2000 and this particular album, Believe, just goes like an excellent kind of 1-2 punch, just to kind of hand pick like the favorites off this and just have like some good social type spark within the pitch behind this excellence type. It's real good outdoor excellence kind of get here. Just good smoke fest and pitches like that. Some gothic fun, some of those type fairs, just hangout type sessions within the pitch behind it. Taco Bell runs, good type fair. There are some makeshift ones on here, like Believe. The title track's like a militant kind of factory push to kind of get just amidst like the autumn makeshift goings that I'd say about this one. Just good for some evening dredge as far as what's first gonna happen. So there are some ones on here like Believe, and I'd probably say like Breathe is another nice one for some of that relative type fair. Some of these type ones that just have a little bit more with errands in mind, or just like the concept of like getting some stuff done. It's kind of within the pitch. And speaking of Breathe, this is like a dredgy ass evening. Breathe is like a song for a dredgy ass evening. I'd have to say just a hot day sludge kind of get here in Commerce. I would definitely feel like this extra thoughts it has, suppose this good song to grab a snack to as far as this pitch can have and get like some Burger King, just quieter type song within the pitch. Not necessarily quiet in terms of like doing nothing, but it's kind of the concept of just realizing just some spare moments to kind of figure out what to do within the concept. Not so much in full blown kind of get crunk type mode, but also not really as full bound to miss the worship. Just kind of moments that are just kind of figuring out what to do. Just concepts of maybe pay a bill or something. It's a concept of maybe check your mail. Some of those type fares, buy a shirt, get some smoke fare just within the pitch behind it. It's kind of the concept of getting like a box of beer. Some of that particular type pitch, just restock on supplies. Some of those type pitches, I have to say, good type concept for that. Bound is a quality one within some of those type fares. It's like an oozing kind of red hot new metal freak noise kind of get here just further. It's like further of the sickness type flavor from the year 2000. I had to say just a festive heater kind of get within some of those aspects. So definitely some of the concepts when you think of songs like Intoxication and Mistress, some of those type ones. Bound is definitely a nice one for some of the backyard. Bound is definitely a nice one for some of those backyard type thrills within the pitch behind it. So there's actually plenty of social spark on this project. I had to say just a concept definitely good highlight for your pals and pitches like that, and some good alternative bells within the pitch behind it. So some good type fare with a lot of these. I say Awaken is a quality one. It's like a neighborhood kind of autumn glaze kind of outings kind of get here. Just a Taco Bell run kind of feeling grand kind of flip mode fun kind of get within some of that type fare. Yeah, Awaken's another extra time type one to kind of get within that format. Just good concept for, once again, some Taco Bell runs, some of that type fare. Just kind of the pitch behind just figuring out what to happen. Just kind of the concept of a little bit amidst like the worship, but just kind of the flip mode of just like, all right, figuring out what's going to happen here. Just pit, whether or not just get some goodies, some of that type fare. Just getting some snacks at a gas station, some of those type pitches. Just figuring out where the homies are at, some of those type pitches. Just kind of getting the concept of just mapping things out just within the concept of just like the relief of just like some unwind from typical kind of just autumn type dredge within it. So it's just good type type concept, just the fair, just feeling grandest, and to put emphasis on the feeling grandest. A good concept. There's some ones on here that have that particular spark, just the pitch of just like some good jive about this from the aspect. I mean, this is kind of a moody type album within a pitch, but it has like the spark of still like the aspect, just like some jive about it. It's not like the typical kind of haunting moroseness of folks like Korn and Marilyn Manson. That's just a lot more malaise. That you'll notice that there wasn't a ton of malaise really being mentioned on this project. It has the relative sparks. It just has like that upkeep of just like a badass type vibe just within the pitch. I mean, it broods, but it doesn't sulk as far as the pitch can have. So it's just within the tone of that. But this is like some just grand typeness to have for like some extra moments of just like the concept of switching to flip mode and figuring things out. So good type tone. Rise is a nice one as well. It's like a sparky kind of feeling grand, kind of out in the summer wind traverse kind of get here. Just good song to get shit done in an active day as far as those pitch can have. So it's just good type tone. Just one of those ones for like a makeshift type push within the aspect, kind of some vehicle centricness, pretty similar to like the song Believe, but just a little bit more amidst like the concept, but just more busybody within the pitch behind. Just a good concept, but just having a productive type aspect just about it. Just to say once again the concept like an active day within some of those type fairs. So just good type pitch, kind of get some stuff done. Just an aspect, just like the typical productive type fair behind it. Just good aspect to kind of switch to the flip mode, not just. This kind of has a good central type aspect to having some balance, to have different modes for like the concept, just to getting some stuff done on certain days, but then having the aspect of having like a good recreational type fair as well. So this one, it actually has a pretty good inspiration type vibe about it within the pitch, because it's not like a square type version like the drivenness of having to get some shit done. It's actually the aspect of having like, hey, you know, just the concept of stepping out a bit and just getting towards like the concept of just like it's the concept of getting towards some productiveness as far as those fairs can happen. So it's just from the aspect of it. But I think I covered every song in here as far as those aspects kind of go. I think the only one I haven't talked about is full bound would just be Devour. So talk about Devour real quick. It's like a warped and woozy kind of day commerce kind of get here. There's some brooding hours with like smokage in your system. I had to say about this one. Good song to roommate, map things out as far as those first gonna have. So it's just within the concept of kind of the same push and pitch as songs like Believe and Rise, but just a little bit more recreational about it. It's a concept where you're just really feeling the head trip. Some of those type fairs, not to recommend driving out and about while being tore up, but just kind of the pitch of just being on the go, or just pitch like that, getting some stuff done within the aspect of just kind of the concept, just having a little bit more feel good type aspects in a more recreational type sense. So it's a good type tone for that. Maybe buying maybe just some surf rounds, just like a couple beers in your hand as far as this pitch kind of having while you just are walking around. Just maybe some local strolls, getting some stuff done with a few beers in your hand as far as this pitch can have. So it's a good type tone for that. Just from the pitch. But I think I covered every song now just from the pitch behind it. Talking about some of these: Intoxication, Believe, Awaken, Mistress, Rise, some of these type ones just from the pitch. So just to talk about this album, just to be able to say it gets the 10 out of 10 within the excellence of it here. So I'll just score would probably get like a 9.75. I look within the pitch, and this is just excellent here to be able to get. Disturbed is a pretty large band within the pitch. They do continue to have hits. They hit #1 often enough on like the rock charts in the United States and pitches like that. They have some pretty big appeals. They're pretty good at doing arena rock and pitches like that, so they do have some big numbers that draw a lot of crowds within that pitch, and they are pretty good alternative staples. They're one of the more alternative ones out of the new metal type fold, more so than like, well, I guess Korn kind of is as well, Evanescence kind of is, Godsmack within a certain sense. So most of these folks that were new metal just adapted to alternative metal, so it's just from the pitch being able to get that real alternative staple. You could probably catch some of this at Hot Topic, some of those type fairs, places like that within the pitch. So it's just the concept. I just would say it's just a mildly quieter type run within it, just simplistic type aspect here, just vanilla aspect, just your shot in the arm to be able to get it, but doesn't make as much thunderous kind of noise. I mean, it definitely does in terms of quality, but in terms of like the promotion, it's just kind of a quieter type pitch that just had this cycle of just realizing that new metal is starting to shift around as far as just realizing that new metal is starting to wane down within some of those type pitches. But it's just definitely excellent to be able to get this this real boisterous type of appeal that nails this kind of concept that it just feels like a more kind of unsung type project from Disturbed, which is surprising. So it's just in the pitch. But in terms of the future, like Disturbed has put out an album in 2022. There's a few more of these for me to get to include. There's a few more of these for me to get to, including maybe like a compilation album or two as far as this first can happen. But for the most part, I basically wrapped up damn near every Disturbed album up to 2010. I'd have to say so. There's the 2010, 2015, 2018, 2022 albums within the pitch. But basically, I've covered everything else by Disturbed within those fairs. So we'll get to some more of these down the road. But this is a definite classic here, kind of in the waning days of new metal, but definitely one not to ignore and just kind of to revisit some of those sparky type tones that were definitely dope.